Matthew McConaughey, Johnny Depp, Brad Pitt, all legends, all Oscar winners. And yet, one name quietly haunted Hollywood audition rooms: Leonardo DiCaprio. Actors would reach the final callback, feel confident, then hear the verdict. It went to Leo. Not Voldemort, not Thanos, just Leonardo. And somehow, that was worse. So how did a former teen heartthrob reinvent himself so completely that Hollywood stopped competing with him? And why do some still say he's overrated? Let's unpack it. A name chosen by fate or a museum trip. Leonardo DiCaprio was born in 1974, and the story behind his name sounds like something a publicist would invent. But it's true. His mother was visiting a museum in Florence, standing in front of a Leonardo da Vinci painting, when she felt her unborn child kick for the first time. The name stuck. As a kid, DiCaprio didn't have a single clear path. He bounced between wanting to be a marine biologist and an actor, which is a surprisingly normal level of confusion for someone who would later play Wall Street criminals and frontier survivalists. The common thread wasn't fame, it was curiosity. He liked observing behavior, copying people, and performing. Ironically, acting nearly ended early. At around 11 years old, he finished second in a breakdancing competition and briefly considered quitting entertainment altogether. Imagine a universe where Leonardo DiCaprio gave up acting because of a dance battle. History is fragile. Commercials, rejection, and an all-time bad agent take. By his early teens, DiCaprio was everywhere. If you watched television in the late 80s, you probably saw him selling Matchbox cars, Bubble Yum, Kraft singles, or Apple Jacks. He worked constantly. What he didn't have was stability. When he finally signed with a talent agent, the advice he received was bold. The agent suggested he change his name from Leonardo DiCaprio to Lenny Williams because it sounded more American and marketable. Thankfully, that idea died quickly, but it captures something important. Hollywood didn't initially know what to do with him. He was talented, but he didn't fit a clean mold, so he kept grinding. The movie Leo pretends never happened. Leonardo DiCaprio's first feature film role came in 1991's Critters 3, a low-budget, direct-to-video sequel. And by his own admission, it's the movie he hates the most. Years later, DiCaprio openly said it was exactly the type of role he didn't want his career to be defined by. The irony is that for many actors, a project like that becomes the ceiling. For DiCaprio, it became fuel. Because almost immediately after, the universe corrected itself. When Robert De Niro picks you, Hollywood listens. In 1992, Robert De Niro personally selected DiCaprio out of roughly 400 young actors to star alongside him in this boy's life. That decision quietly changed everything. Then came 1993 and What's Eating Gilbert Grape. DiCaprio's performance as Arnie, a boy with developmental disabilities, was so convincing that many viewers assumed the role wasn't acting at all. It was raw, uncomfortable, and emotionally precise. He earned an Academy Award nomination at just 19 years old. He didn't win, but the industry clocked it. The teen idol era, also known as the career trap. The mid-1990s turned DiCaprio into something dangerous, a heartthrob. Films like Romeo plus Juliet, The Basketball Diaries, and Marvin's Room made him wildly famous. Fans screamed, crowds flooded premieres, teen magazines crowned him king. This is where many serious actors disappear. Hollywood loves boxing people in, and DiCaprio was being boxed into pretty guy who cries convincingly. Most actors either lean into it or get stuck. DiCaprio did something else. Titanic, the movie that gave him power. When James Cameron cast Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic, the film didn't just succeed, it detonated. It rewrote box office history, crossing the $2 billion mark worldwide at a time when that number sounded fictional. It dominated pop culture, won 11 Academy Awards, and turned its cast into global icons overnight. Titanic wasn't just a movie, it was a cultural reset. And at the center of it all was DiCaprio, whose face became so ubiquitous that it was practically unavoidable. Teenagers screamed, magazines exploded, movie theaters became shrines. And yet, in a twist that would later feel absurd, Leonardo DiCaprio wasn't even nominated for an Oscar. No trophy, no speech, no gold statue to mark his contribution to the biggest film of the decade. What he got instead was something far more dangerous: a crossroads. He could have leaned into the fame, chased safer romantic leads, and cashed in on his heartthrob status for the rest of his career. Hollywood would have happily written those checks. Instead, DiCaprio did the opposite. He rejected comfort, he rejected repetition. Rather than chasing paydays, he started chasing directors, filmmakers who demanded more from him than charm and cheekbones. He deliberately avoided making Titanic 2 in spirit, even though the industry desperately wanted it. That choice wasn't obvious and it wasn't safe, but it quietly reshaped his trajectory. Titanic gave him fame. His response to Titanic gave him power. The most ridiculous run in modern film history. What followed from the late 1990s through the mid-2000s doesn't resemble a normal acting career. It looks more like a carefully curated flex. Leonardo DiCaprio began stacking films that weren't just successful, but culturally dominant. Gangs of New York paired him with Martin Scorsese. Catch Me If You Can let him weaponize charm. The Aviator demanded obsession and unraveling. The Departed plunged him into moral decay. Blood Diamond forced him into physical and emotional brutality. And somehow, it kept escalating. Shutter Island explored psychological fracture. Inception asked him to anchor one of the most complex blockbusters ever made. Django Unchained turned him into a villain audiences love to hate. The Wolf of Wall Street pushed excess so far, it became satire. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood showed restraint and maturity instead of dominance. These weren't filler movies. They weren't one for me, one for them projects. They were events. Each role demanded something different. New accents, altered physicality, ethical ambiguity, emotional volatility. DiCaprio wasn't coasting. He was constantly recalibrating. And yet, through this absurdly consistent run, the Oscar drought continued. It became a joke, a meme, proof that awards don't always track quality, effort, or cultural impact. At a certain point, people stopped asking if he deserved an Oscar and started asking what crime he'd committed to be denied one this long. The Bear, the Internet, and the inevitable Oscar. By the time The Revenant arrived, subtlety had been abandoned entirely. Leonardo DiCaprio didn't just act in that film, he survived it. He froze in real locations. He crawled through snow and mud. He ate raw meat. He screamed, gasped, bled, and was violently mauled by a bear in a scene so intense, it felt like the Academy was being dared to ignore him again. This wasn't just a performance, it was endurance art. And in 2016, the Academy finally gave in. Leonardo DiCaprio won his first Oscar. The internet erupted, memes turned into celebrations. Years of collective frustration evaporated in a single standing ovation. Relief replaced outrage. Balance was restored to the universe, or at least to film Twitter. But the moment carried an unintentional message. Apparently, decades of exceptional work weren't enough. What finally did it was visible suffering. Freeze long enough, bleed hard enough, get eaten by wildlife. Lesson learned. It was justice, yes, but justice with a footnote. The criticism that refuses to die. Despite everything, DiCaprio remains divisive. Some critics argue he plays variations of the same character. Others claim his success is too tied to directors like Martin Scorsese. His personal life is endlessly dissected. But here's the reality. DiCaprio's acting isn't about disappearing behind accents or prosthetics. It's about intensity, control, internal chaos. His performances live in psychology, not gimmicks. That's why they age well, why Leonardo DiCaprio still wins. Leonardo DiCaprio's greatest achievement isn't an Oscar or a box office record, it's sustained relevance without creative decay. From 1997 to 2015, he delivered one high-impact performance after another without diluting his reputation. Even his weaker films remain watchable. His strongest ones are studied. Few actors, if any, have managed that level of consistency across decades. Love him or hate him, one thing is undeniable. Hollywood didn't shape Leonardo DiCaprio. Leonardo DiCaprio outlasted Hollywood. So whether you think Leonardo DiCaprio is overrated, perfectly rated, or the reason half of Hollywood needed therapy in the early 2000s, one thing is undeniable. His career isn't an accident. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want more videos like this, about careers, controversies, and the uncomfortable truths behind fame, make sure to like and subscribe.